Hi, my name is Eric Volkers from Sam's Real Estate Club, and I want to say congratulations! You just made the best investment you could ever make. With this 22 program, it's 20 checks going into your bank account monthly within 2 years. And you know what? To be honest with you, there is no limit to this. You can do 30 checks in 3 years, or maybe even 40 checks in 4 years. It doesn't matter. You have the exact blueprint on what you can do to get to that financial freedom. Now, let me tell you about Sam first of all. Sam is a personal friend of mine. Not only has he mentored me and taught me strategies that you wouldn't even believe that you can use now in this market, but he's helped thousands of people over the 9 years with his club, and in my opinion is the most trusted and honest person you could talk to and have at your side, which you can even email if you have any questions with this program. But let me tell you, with this program, it's in depth. It's 50-page manual you could just go through. It's step by step, as well as 15 videos that coincide with it together, which will help you get to where you want to go faster. Now, let me tell you one thing though. With this, it's like a recipe. You have to take action. If you take action, there's nothing that's going to stop you. You're going to get to the end result. And again, you've got the most and the best program available to you now, right now, to get you those 20 checks in 2 years. Now, I also want to say thank you so much for taking the time and the investment to do this. And you're on your way, and I hope to see you in Sam's Real Estate Club.
Let's get started. What worked in real estate a few years ago is no longer viable. The information, the knowledge that many people have gathered over the years up until about a couple of 2-3 years ago, obviously great to have knowledge and education, but most of that information is probably obsolete by now. This kind of market that we're in, it's very dynamic, but at the same time it's very chaotic. It has incredible potential for profit, and at the same time it is sort of like a major pitfall for many investors who do not know what they're doing and essentially end up losing a lot of money. In this section, I'm going to be talking about two strategies that are prevalent in today's market. Very briefly, one is fix and flip, the other one is buy and hold. The fix and flip strategy has been used for the last several years since the 2008 meltdown. I used it very effectively at the latter part of 08, 09, and 10. But as the years gone by, we realized that the profit-making potential on fix and flips are essentially dwindling down and creating a market where investors who want to do this kind of strategy, it's going to be very difficult to accomplish your objectives. And therefore, in my opinion, perhaps is not a great strategy unless you have an incredible resource for finding these distressed properties and being able to buy them low enough so you can actually make a good profit. The second strategy that I want to talk to you about is the buy and hold strategy. Now, this strategy is in the heart of the 22 program, which is of course 20 checks in 2 years. The buy and hold strategy works in this market because it takes a lot of pressure off of you. I'm going to talk about it a lot more in detail as to what all entails in the program, but just so that you know, the buy and hold strategy is essentially the gateway to your financial freedom. Sometimes I just think back and I say, hey, I wish I had kept all the properties that I had bought and sold over the years. If I had done that, I probably had over 100 properties right now. But the lure of instant gratification, selling the property, making some money, putting some money in your pocket, and enjoying it right now, it kind of at times gets pretty enticing. So I fell into that trap myself and ended up selling a whole bunch of these properties at different times. And I want to emphasize to you right now that to build wealth, it's not accomplished by buying and selling properties. Building wealth involves your commitment to buying properties, holding on to these properties, and holding on for long enough so that when the mortgages are all paid, you're essentially getting a whole bunch of money, income every month into your account, into your pocket. There are three components that I believe are essential in your success as a real estate investor. The three components are cash now, cash flow, and cash later. When you do a fix and flip, you're only getting cash now. But when you do a buy and hold, you are getting cash flow and also cash later when you refinance the property or when you decide to sell it as a part of my hybrid program, which I will go into detail a little bit later. But essentially with this buy and hold, you're accomplishing all of the objectives. One other thing that I wanted to add to it, you know, it used to be a time when people thought net worth is the only determinant of your financial freedom and financial security. Having $5 million in equity in real estate is fantastic, it's great, and you're getting cash flow. But in today's market, we don't really need to have accumulated so much properties or so much net worth to be able to be financially or experience financial freedom. What you want is a steady cash flow coming to you from your investments, whether or not you have equity. That's why it's so important that you learn how to structure a real estate transaction to where you have cash flow, but you don't necessarily or may not have any part of the equity. So I want you to start thinking along those lines, that cash flow or regular cash flow coming to you every month can provide you with that same sort of financial independence that many people in the past have experienced with having a big net worth.
In this section, Sam's going to explain to us what is the 22 plan.
The 22 program, collecting 20 rent checks in 2 years, is an incredible vehicle to your financial freedom, financial success in real estate. It is so applicable anywhere in the country that it doesn't mean if you're not in Southern California, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. I don't care where you are in the good old US of A, you're going to be able to implement this strategy to get what you want and establish that cash flow for yourself. Let me explain. We covered a little bit about how difficult it is in this day and age to do fix and flips because of course the lenders or the banks are not allowing you to make great profits because they know exactly what investors want and they're making sure that what they're selling the property for is going to cut you out of the deal. So because of that, the strategy that I'm talking about was invented, was created, because I figured, you know, we got to change, we got to be flexible, we got to react to what's going on out there. So my suggestion and the program is based upon investing in 2 to 4 units, no matter where you are in the country, okay? 2 to 4 units. You invest in 2 to 4 units and you gather or accumulate or obtain 20 properties within 2 years. These properties are maybe duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, could be anything in 2 to 4 unit sort of increments, okay? And then you keep the portfolio, you use the hybrid system to dump some of the ones that you do not want to keep, hold on to the ones you got, refinance the initial financing, which is probably hard money, and we're going to go into more details, with a longer term mid-level financing, and then in about 5 to 7 years, you probably be able to get yourself into a long-term 30-year, 15-year conventional financing when the money becomes readily available or more readily available in the market. So the essential thing is that you got to remember, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how the 22 program works here in Southern California. Most of the properties that we have bought over the last 12 months on the 22 program, actually within the last closer to 1 year and a half, most of these properties are giving us anywhere between $400 to $600 per month per unit. That's how powerful this program is. And the reason I suggest and I want you to do 2 to 4 units is because you will experience positive cash flow when you buy 2 to 4 units. When you buy a single family home in Southern California, for example, for about $300,000 and your rent, monthly rent is only like $1,800, there is no way you're going to be able to get the kind of positive cash flow that you were trying to achieve. Instead, when you buy a 2 to 4 units, let's say a triplex that we bought in Riverside, California, when we bought it for about $120,000 and it's giving us a $2,000 rent per month, that is a massive positive cash flow. That's what I'm talking about. That's why 2 to 4 units are more viable investment vehicles for you to achieve your financial independence as opposed to single family homes. Of course, there's a caveat. There are places, again, such as Riverside, maybe in Palmdale, Lancaster in California, and I'm sure many parts in the country, where you can essentially buy a single family home cheap enough to still be able to rent it and have a positive cash flow. But that strategy is not very viable in Southern California, particularly around the city of Los Angeles, where there is no way any of these single family homes, even in areas that are not really good, to be able to give you that positive cash flow. But the key issue is that you need to find such areas that will enable you to achieve what you want, and that is anywhere between $300 to $500 per unit in positive cash flow every month. If you follow this plan and you have 20 units in 2 years, giving you an average of, let's say, $500 per month, you're getting $10,000 per month. $120,000 per year. I can only imagine, even with $120,000 per year, many of you out there would consider yourself completely and totally financially independent. And the other part about it is it will get better. Why? Because as you reduce your principal on these mortgages in your portfolio, and as the rent increases in about 10 to 15 years, when all of your homes are paid for and your rent has gone up, it will be able to afford you a much more lavish lifestyle, a much more comfortable lifestyle, and give you a hell of a lot more than the $10,000, obviously, and you're going to be home free. And that's when you can essentially go out and move about the country, move about the world, because you don't have to be stuck to one place and work every day using your time to make money. You allow your properties, your investments, to make the money for you.
In this section, Sam's going to explain the mindset you need to succeed.
All right, how important is attitude? How important is mindset? Do you think that your success is entirely based upon nuts and bolts? Do you believe that if you know everything about real estate, that you're going to be able to not only succeed, but also be able to maintain your level of success? But what's more important in life? Is it more important to have a whole bunch of money in the bank and be miserable or unhappy, or be totally happy and have no money? Frankly, I don't like either one of them. I like a balance and a combination of the two. I like to have a lot of money, and I like to have a great mindset and attitude. And to accomplish that, you have to understand that your life in its entirety depends on 2 factors. Happiness in your life, essentially, depends on 2 factors. Number one, you got to work with what is in your heart. You cannot go out there and do a job and work at something that you really don't believe in. You know, you may make money at it, but you're not going to be very happy with it. So if real estate is a vehicle you want to choose and you think that it's going to give you what you want, but is it really something you like to do? Is real estate a game that you enjoy? If not, then you have 2 choices. Either you're going to go find something else, some other vehicle, or somehow be able to change your attitude about real estate, change your mindset, your belief system. Why don't you like real estate? One of the things that we do at the club here at our monthly meetings is to really work on your mindset, to help you expand your horizons, to help you change your belief system from something that is disempowering, something that is not working for you, into something that is really, really helping you out to achieve your goals. And again, remember, the goal is to be happy and to have a lot of money. So I want to emphasize with you that if you would like to be happy and successful, not only do you have to go out there and gain the specific knowledge, nuts and bolts of that specific vehicle, in this case real estate, but also you got to work on yourself on a daily basis. It's talking about, I'm talking about personal development. I'm talking about self-improvement. What are you doing in that area? Are you really out there going to seminars that are essentially designed to help you as a person, to give you more emotional stability, to give you more mental, better mental outlook on life? Those are the kind of seminars that you also have to attend in addition to what you need to know in real estate. In the manual that is accompanying these videos, I have attached a whole bunch of powerful mindset changing materials that I'm sure is going to be able to help you get yourself on the path of recognizing that your main responsibility in life is to be happy, is to be joyful, is to have a feeling of well-being, a sense of morale. And that sense of morale comes with production, productivity. How are you spending your days? Are you just being busy or are you being productive? They're not synonymous. Okay, so if somebody asks you, hey, how are you doing today? And what is your life like? And you say, I'm busy. What does that mean? It may mean that you're shuffling a lot of papers, but it doesn't mean that you're productive. So the essence of productivity is what I'm going to be talking about in the manual to help you elevate to the higher levels of achievement. And with that kind of mindset and with that kind of attitude and the fact that now you believe that real estate is that vehicle for you, your success is guaranteed, without a doubt. But to me, I have no doubt that you'll succeed. Do you have any doubt about your success? Because if you do, as Shakespeare said, you will be betraying yourself, because your doubts are your traitors. So what you want to do is remove doubt from your life and replace it with faith, replace it with trust, replace it with certitude and certainty that you are going to succeed no matter what. And I want to give you a secret which you probably have heard, but I'm going to say it again because you've heard the expression, when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And what I want to tell you is self-esteem and self-worth. Do you feel worthy of success? Do you feel that you as an individual, as a person, deserve to be successful? Because if you don't, nothing is going to happen in this world that is going to make that happen for you. So, in conclusion, make sure that you change your attitude and your mindset to that will empower you in life, to make sure you stay with it continuously so that you don't lose track or you don't go off the actual path of success, and you also gain that ability to become certain about who you are, feel worthy for all the success that is going to come to you, and have no doubt about it.
In this section, Sam's going to explain to you how to get your financing in order.
All right, let's talk about financing. Okay, so we already talked about the fact that you know what the 22 program is. You know that we're going to buy 2 to 4 units. So you might say, hey, I don't have all the money to actually get involved with this program. Well, the good news is you don't have to. You don't have to have all the money or any of the money to get involved in this program. A good thing we have OPM, and by which I mean other people's money. We will teach you how to raise OPM, other people's money, to be able to accomplish your objective of owning 20 units in 2 years. Besides, although conventional financing is not readily available in this market and there are too many obstacles for people to be able to finance their properties using banks' money, we have hard money loans. Hard money loans are a fantastic source of financing your properties. Although the interest rates are higher, maybe about 10 to 12%, maybe 3 to 4 points. But the bottom line of it is they're available. You don't need to have excellent credit. You don't need to have you don't need to have tax documentation, income documentation to prove that you essentially can buy the property. You don't really need anything except for some money down. And the money down part is about 30 to 40%. In some instances, hard money lenders will go up to about 80% of your purchase price, or some of them will go up to about 80% of your after repair value of the property. So because of that element of private money or hard money availability in this market, you really don't have to sweat it. And the numerous links that I will provide in my manual will direct you to so many of these hard money lenders out there in the country that you essentially will be able to call any of them you want and finance your deal. So the hard money is going to cover about, let's say, 70% of your purchase. That's the first mortgage. Where are you going to get your 30% down payment? Well, that's where the OPM comes in. You can talk to your friends, perhaps tap into your lines of credit if you still have them. How about credit cards? I see a whole bunch of people out there right now are getting 0% credit cards, and and now they're beginning to open up again. Well, you can tap into that. Whatever you got, if you've got personal property, do you have a boat or an RV sitting in your garage doing nothing? Sell the darn thing. Get the money. Okay, so what you want to do is to be able to tap into any money resources that you may have available to you. So if you don't have any of that, assuming you have none of that, you could find the property, do all of your investigation and research and the due diligence process, and then you put it under contract. It's very easy to do, and you don't need a lot of money to do that. That's when you go out there and sell your property to other people that have money. So you can bring them in with you as a partner. How is their money secured, you might ask? In a form of a second mortgage. Remember, the first mortgage is with the hard money lender, and the balance of that is going to be secured by OPM, and they will put a lien on that property to protect their interest. So that's how you're going to be able to sell it. You tell them, oh, hey, come in, either loan me the money, I'll give you 12% return on your money for the use of it because I'm doing this property and I'm giving you the second mortgage position for your security, as opposed to money sitting in the bank and getting 1%, you're now getting 12%, and allow me to go ahead and buy this property. Or why don't you just come in and be my partner, be my joint venture partner in here, okay? We'll be 50-50, we'll be 60-40, whatever it is you want to work out. But the essence of it is that you can essentially own that property 100% financed. Property is worth $200,000. You will get a loan from a hard money lender for $130,000 first mortgage, and the other $70,000 you will get from OPM, and that person is going to be your partner or your second mortgage lender, and you will give them a good return on their investment. Let me give you some good news in here too. Although you're borrowing money at 10 to 12%, all of my calculations with so many of these properties that we have done over the years shows that you'll still be able to get a pretty good ROI, which is return on investment, even with hard money loans at 10 to 12%. So your return on investment is going to be anywhere between about 6% and 15%, depending upon the financing strategy.
So in this section, Sam's going to show you how to purchase with no money down.
One of the questions I'm more often asked than anything else is, Sam, what does no money down mean? What is nothing down? How do you do that? You know, it sounds like it's a pretty novel idea, but is it really viable? Is it really doable? Let me give you a little history of nothing down. Maybe some of you remember, back in the 80s and the 90s, nothing down or no money down meant that investors would go out there, locate properties that had existing financing, existing loans from VA, FHA, conventional, whatever, and they essentially approach the distressed homeowner or seller and would offer to buy that property with assuming the existing mortgage. If they were assumable, great. If they were not assumable, they would just go ahead and do a subject to and you have probably heard that term, subject to. It simply means that you are buying a property subject to the existing loan, and that loan, more often than not, is not assumable. But you essentially go about and putting a structure in such a way that you be able to own that property and keep that mortgage in place, and you make the payments on that mortgage, and the property is yours, and many times you just walk in with no money out of your pocket, the way that you structured it. Later, and as we saw back in the roaring 2000s, the money became so readily available that the banks were starting to make ninja loans. Ninja, as in no income, no job, no asset loans. Remember those loans? Okay. So the ninja loans were so prevalent and so easy to get that people were actually go out there and buy these properties, not only with no money out of pocket, many times they would just walk away with money in their pockets after close of escrow, because the lenders would allow 100% financing, 110% financing, 125% financing. It was insane. And anybody in their right mind knew that the market would fall apart when the lending became so reckless. But in that period of time, who needed any money from who needed money from OPM, who needed money from hard money lenders, who needed money from, who needed to structure a subject to transaction? All of that just completely went out of the window, because the banks were giving you the money on a silver platter and say, here, it's yours. And you didn't have to do anything. All you had to do is just fog the mirror and here's your money. Well, we all know those days are gone. So now we're back into a realistic and a sort of a market that is sensible, more reasonable to work with. And in this kind of market, because of the banks are not allowing you to do all the crazy stuff that we used to do back then, and because those assumable loans are all but gone, and the only things that are available are conventional loans, and of course we know none of them is assumable, but the reality is you can still structure a subject to, but that concept is not part of this program. I just wanted to bring that up to your attention, that yes, you can structure that kind of loan to buy a distressed property. But for the purpose of my program and the 22 program, we're talking about structuring a transaction where your money is not involved. And I kind of touched upon that in the last section. Your money sources are hard money sources, and your money sources are OPM sources, other people's money. And when you structure a deal to where you can buy a property with 100% financing, first mortgage hard money, second mortgage OPM, then within about a year or year and a half later, when your note is seasoned, many times only within 6 months. When I say note is seasoned, meaning you have made payments on it regularly, and the banks and the lenders, hard money, OPM, private guys love what you do in terms of making the payments on time. You now take that and you will obtain what I call a mid-level financing. A mid-level financing will allow you to refinance the first and the second mortgage into one loan, and perhaps even pull some money out of your property, and in that case lower your interest rate from 10 to 12 to about 7 to 8%. And immediately your cash flow is going to be higher. Your return on investment from a 5 or 6% is going to jump to about 10 or 11%. And that's the essential element of your success, that mid-level financing that many people didn't know about. They thought, okay, I buy hard money, use OPM, and then what? After a year, I got to pay them back. What am I going to do now? Well, we're introducing the mid-level financing. There are many, many lenders out there right now, insurance money, pension funds. They're making those available to you as long as they're seasoned, as long as your credit is decent, as long as you handle your obligations, financial obligations responsibly, you'll be able to get those loans. And believe me, when you get that mid-level financing for 3 to 5 years, you are done. Because I guarantee you within 5 years from now, when the market, money market becomes a lot more abundant, you'll be able to refinance these properties into long-term conventional loans, and you're home free. So that's how it's going to work for you.
In this section, Sam's going to discuss how to locate your investment area.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you're not tired of me by now. We got a lot more to cover, okay? This part is about location. Locating your area, dominating it. A lot of people talk to me about location. Okay, Sam, is it good to buy out of state? How far do my investment properties have to be from my home to make sense? All sorts of logistical issues. In my opinion, buying out of state may be a good strategy for some of us who know how to do that, and maybe we have friends, relatives, or other people that can watch over our properties. But if you don't have any of that, stick to your backyard, to your acres of diamonds, so to speak. Whatever you want is right there, very close to you. No matter where you live in the country, all you got to do is locate an area where you have these types of 2 to 4 units available to you. And you want to make sure that they do cash flow for you. But you don't want to sacrifice everything for cash flow. The key issue is balance. You find a decent location and cash flow together, as opposed to, oh, I get so much cash flow from this location and it's really a very inferior location, and you just for the sake of cash flow, you completely ignore the location. Remember, real estate still today is about location, location, location. But in order to achieve the balance between cash flow and location, you're just gonna have to sacrifice a little of each. But when you get that happy medium, that you have a property that is essentially giving you the 1% rule on the income for the property, which is covered in our manual, the 1% rule, and I'm gonna be talking about it in a short video. If you are able to get the 1% rule on that property that you're buying, you're essentially doing a good job. As an example, the 1% rule just says that your monthly rental income should be 1% of your acquisition price or the property value. If you paid $120,000 for your triplex, then your monthly rental income should be 1% of that, or $1,200 a month at least. And that will definitely cash flow for you no matter what happens. No matter if you borrow 10 or 12%, I have done the calculation on multiple properties. You'll still have a very decent return on investment. So with that, I want to emphasize, once you do that and once you create that happy medium, you buy these properties, and then that area that you're supposed to dominate will be your area. Anybody that calls you off of that, anybody that you find in that particular area, any property that you locate, you are going to be able to very quickly determine the present value, the rehab or the repair cost of the property, and also you're going to be able to determine the after repair value. Not that you're going to sell it, but hey, when you want to refinance that property, when you want to possibly even use the hybrid system to sell that property, then you are going to be able to know how much that property is going to be worth for you. So dominating an area, knowing an area, and knowing what that particular area values are, both in terms of buying, selling, and rental, is going to give you the competitive edge that you need over people that are going all over the place. But one other thing you got to keep in mind, that if you are not close to any of these types of areas that would give you that sort of income that you're looking for, stretch out your radius to about 100 miles from your home. That will only be a couple hours from you to look at your property, watch over it, and decide whether or not you want to do something about it, as opposed to jumping on a plane, flying for about 3.5 hours to trying to go and work something out in parts of Texas or Kansas or Florida, and in a culture that is very different than the one that we have in Southern California or wherever you might be in the nation. So you want to work within your own area, not further than 100-mile radius, dominating that, knowing the values, getting what you need to get, getting to know people, getting on your bicycle, driving the neighborhood, riding around in the neighborhood, driving very slowly, looking at the houses, looking at what tall grass, broken windows, showing distress, vacant, abandoned properties, talking to real estate agents that are active in the area, for sale by owners, a fantastic source for you, and so many other stuff that we're going to be talking about in the following sections.
How do you find viable investment properties? Here's Sam to tell you how.
Hi, so we're talking about how you find these properties. whether it's a fix and flip or in our case, buy and hold, where do we find these properties? Well, the good news is that when you do a buy and hold, you don't have to be as picky about the purchase price as you would be for a fix and flip. Because in a fix and flip scenario, every penny counts. You're buying it, fixing it, and you have to keep that property vacant until it sells, and you hope that you make a decent profit with that. And any dollar that goes into the extra dollar that goes into the bank's pocket is taking it out of your pocket. In a buy and hold scenario, your vision is not on the instant gratification short-term process. Your vision is long-term. And over a long period of time, properties do appreciate. Oh, by the way, when we're talking about appreciation of properties, it's never the improvement that appreciate, it's the land under the improvement. It's the land under the structure that appreciates. The reason properties are so expensive in California, especially the coastal areas, if you look at the records from the county assessor's office, the land value is $750,000 and the structure is only $150,000. And the structure is not that bad either. So it's the land that appreciates. The structure always depreciates. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind. And I'm talking about locations, superior locations. Of course, if you go to the high deserts in California or perhaps Phoenix, Arizona or someplace like that, the structure may even be worth more than the land, but not in such areas as in Southern California and the metropolitan areas, large cities, and so on and so forth. That being said, the way you find these properties, you can go to REO agents, you can go to asset managers, you can find these properties from notice of default, notice of trustee sales. There's so many various resources where you can essentially go and find these properties, but as I said before, you don't have to be as picky. If you are intending to hold a property, a 2 to 4 unit property, for 3 years, and you're competing with someone who's going to buy that property to fix and flip, if they're offering $110,000, but you can collect $2,000 rent a month on that property, you can go easily $120,000 and still be able to land that property and get rid of your competition. The reason you can do that is because ultimately it doesn't matter to you. Ultimately, you're going to have OPM and the hard money financing the property. Very little is going to go out of your pocket. But more importantly, what's the difference between 110 and 120 when you're collecting $2,000 a month in rent? I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So from that perspective of a buy and hold, you have a lot more freedom of choice in terms of the offer that you're going to make to the bank for acquisition of that property. The property sources also, one of the other property sources that you can get is through our real estate club. I have strategic alliances with multiple companies out there that are providing us with all types of distressed properties. As a member or as an investor who has purchased this program, who's bought into this program and this plan, you will be given the opportunity to go on our website, check the properties that we've got for you, whether it's a fix and flip, but primarily buy and hold properties that we have available for you. You really don't have to go and look and find properties anymore. All you got to do is become so good at the rest of the stuff and allow us to post those properties for you on the website, allow me and the team to send you properties that you can invest in. And I'm sure as time progresses, we're going to be able to bring you a hell of a lot more properties, because I understand there is a major shadow inventory properties out there. I know that it's not coming through like it's supposed to, but I bet you after this year, the election year, we're going to see the gateway opening, and we're going to be looking at a whole bunch more properties out there that are distressed, that are foreclosed upon, and we're going to be able to acquire just enough to be able to give you what you're looking for, financial freedom within 2 years.
This is a very important section, the due diligence process.
All right, the due diligence process. Perhaps the most vital and critical part of your success in real estate is your ability to do a proper due diligence evaluation of your investment. Short of that, you might be asking for a disaster. And I've seen that many times where people buy properties not knowing what the heck they're doing, not doing the due diligence properly, and they just pay too much for it. As we discussed before, your profit is made when you're going into the deal, not when you're coming out of it. So if you don't know what the heck you're doing up front, it will really create a whole bunch of problems for you. The due diligence process, we're going to teach you, essentially the beauty of what I'm teaching you in this program is we're going to teach you the due diligence on both strategies, buy and hold and fix and flip. The reason we're doing that is because I have a proprietary spreadsheet that will enable you to very quickly determine the after repair value of your property, the rehab cost of the property, and also be able to give you the best offer price that you want to make on that property. Why it's good is because number one, it's going to be done from the comfort of your home, so you don't have to drive all over the place. You don't even have to see the property close up, because all of the stuff that you do is done right from the comfort of your house, your office. Even the rehab process, you'll be amazed what I have done. I've worked it out to a science by evaluating over 20 properties that we have done over the years. In the last couple of years, I have been able to come up with formulas and percentages that would allow you to determine not only the after repair value and your best offer price for purchase, but also it will be able to give you pretty close approximation, the rehab cost of the property. Okay, so you do all of that, determine what's going on, you make your offer, and if you know your offer is going to be accepted, then you will drive and look at the property. That's when you actually go and look at it. You don't want to waste your time driving around looking at things that will never happen or that they're not viable. So the spreadsheet is so powerful, it will give you the ability to just sit, do your calculation quickly, and determine whether or not you want to make an offer on a property. With with this program also, you will get a webinar that I've done some time back. It's called The Price is Right. That Price is Right webinar is going to be included in this program, and it will give you the ability to essentially look at and see how we go about determining values on these properties. When you do a fix and flip as opposed to a buy and hold, they're a little bit different sort of calculation or evaluation. When you do a buy and hold strategy, you need to know the after repair value, you need to know the rehab cost of the property so that you arrive at the best offer price to buy. When you do a buy and hold, you do want to know what the rehab cost is, but the good news is it's going to be a hell of a lot less than if you were going to do a fix and flip. It's a very basic rehab for making the property tenant ready as opposed to sale ready. It's a rent ready versus a sale ready kind of strategy. But in addition to knowing the after repair value on a buy and hold, you also need to, of course, know the rehab cost, but you also need to know the rental, monthly rental income on these properties. So you need to do a more expanded kind of evaluation and due diligence to speak with the agents in the areas, search through the internet. So I'm going to have some links for you there so you can essentially evaluate the rental income in any given area that you want to get into. And that will enable you to now have 4 components as opposed to 3 components. One is the after repair value, the other one is the rehab cost, the other one is the best offer you want to make on the property, and of course the monthly rental income for you to know on a buy and hold, which is a critically important factor because that's how you will determine whether or not you're going to have a decent cash flow, an attractive ROI on your property. And that also is being made very simple for you, and it's called the 1% rule. Again, the 1% rule formula is going to be included in this package, and I've already alluded to that. It's pretty easy to figure it out, and once you follow the formulas and the spreadsheet that I've put together, you realize how easy it is for anybody, anywhere, to be able to follow this and be able to come up with all the numbers that they need to have and do an incredibly precise due diligence so that never again You end up losing money on a property or not being able to create an attractive return on your investment on a buy and hold strategy.
Let's see what Sam has to say about the process of making an offer.
All right, the offer process. Okay, making offers. So let me give you a piece of advice, I suppose. You are not going to be able to have any money or to make any money unless you close the escrow. In order for you to close the escrow, you must first open an escrow, right? And in order for you to open an escrow, you need to have an accepted offer. And in order for you to have an accepted offer, you got to make offers, and lots of them. Many times people come to me and say, hey Sam, I don't know why I can't get any property or anything in escrow. My question immediately is, how many offers are you making a week? And come to think of it, and the answer is, well, I only made an offer last week and I'm making an offer today. Well, the reality is that with a couple of offers, you might as well forget it. You're not going to get anything. In fact, for every 10 offers that you make, you probably end up with one that is going to go through. So you better get used to making lots and lots of offers. So how do you make your offer? What do you know about making the best offer? And what is the best strategy to make sure that you're not giving them an offer which is more than what you're supposed to pay for? Remember what we talked about again, and I said that before. You got to make sure that your profit is built in when you buy the property. You do not want to be counting on the market changing in your favor to make profit. You do not want to be thinking about any external factors that is going to enhance your ability to sell the property down the road in order to make money. You want to solely rely upon your ability to buy the property at a price that is going to make sense for you and is going to give you your profit at the end without any influence from any outside factors. That's critical. So the best way you make your offer is using the spreadsheet that I talked about in the previous section. We will teach you how to use that spreadsheet very effectively. It is extremely powerful and it's very simple. I get testimonials from my students all the time that the spreadsheet alone has enabled them to make multiple offers and be able to quickly act so that they essentially ended up with the property as opposed to trying to figure out what the heck's going on, and by the time you do your calculation and everything else, somebody else has already grabbed it. You don't have time for that. Not in this market. Extremely competitive. So you use your spreadsheet to determine the offer that you want to make. It's the best and highest offer that you're going to make on that property. And of course, you move forward and make as many offers as you can. One of the things you got to keep in mind, if you evaluate the graphs on these properties that are being sold on the market right now, they have graphs for the list price of the property and the sales price of the property. Every property that is sold in any given area is selling about 10 to 20% below the list price. What is that telling you? It means that the banks or the homeowners, the sellers, in general, they're listing the properties at least 10 to 20% higher than what the market bears, which means that right off the bat, no matter what they're asking, 99% of the times, you're going to have to buy that property 10 to 20% below the asking price. And also use the spreadsheet to your advantage, come up with the value and the best and highest offer that you can make, that you can essentially offer to the bank, and leave a little bit of room for negotiation. And then present your offer. But also remember, lucky for you, you're doing the buy and hold as opposed to the fix and flip. So if push comes to shove at the end, and if your rental income is supporting the 1% rule, by that I mean it meets or exceeds the 1% rule, then don't worry about it. What if you paid a few $1,000s more? What if you paid $5,000 or $10,000 more? It doesn't matter. You still want that property, as long as the location is good and as long as the rental income that we're talking about is going to be stable enough to afford you and make you that awesome return on investment between 5 to hopefully 15%. Okay?
The topic of this section is the inspection process.
All right, the inspection process. All right, unless you're buying your property from an auction, okay, and believe me, I really want to emphasize this. If you're buying a property at the auction, whether it's a trustee auction or a private auction, whatever, you got to be extremely careful buying at the auctions, because you really do not have a physical inspection contingency in your contract. So whatever inspection you have to do, physical inspection, it must be done prior to you making the offer and putting the property under contract. So be very careful when it comes into buying properties from auctions. But assuming you're buying the property in some sort of an REO format from an agent, a distressed homeowner, a typical kind of scenario, you usually have a contract which will allow you to close escrow anywhere between a couple of weeks to a month or maybe more, and you will always have the contingency for physical inspection. In fact, it should be your motto. It should be your number one rule that you should insist upon, to have a physical inspection in every contract that you enter into. The physical inspection will allow you, obviously, not only to check the property to make sure that your rehab cost is not going to exceed what you had already estimated on your spreadsheet and based on our due diligence process, but it's also designed to give you a way out. What if you put the property under contract and wanted to essentially assign the property to somebody else? Or what if you put the property under contract but you want to either flip it or you want to hold it long term, but since you haven't seen the property, you don't know whether or not that the rehab cost is going to meet what you had already calculated. But upon inspection, you realize that it's probably going to be a hell of a lot more than you thought. Then that's the time that you go back to the seller and you essentially tell them that the rehab price or the rehab cost is a hell of a lot more than you had anticipated, and therefore you want to renegotiate and get a better deal. But if everything fails because you have a physical inspection contingency in your contract, it would allow you to step out of the contract, out of escrow, and get your money back. If you do not do that, your earnest money deposit, maybe anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000 or $10,000, could be gone, and you don't want that to happen to you. The beauty of the system, the spreadsheet and our due diligence process, the beauty of it is that you essentially have been able to figure out what the property looks like pretty much by looking at the pictures of the property on the internet, hopefully having a friend, an agent in the area which you have contacted, and they're going to be able to give you more additional pictures to look at without you having to drive all over the place. One of the best ways that I actually have used in the past, and it works very nicely, finds agents in the area that are motivated to go take a look at the property inside and out, take pictures, send it to you, and you do make a promise, and you will follow up with the promise that if you bought that property, they will have the listing, whether it's now or in the future. Do whatever you can to utilize boots on the ground, whether they're inspectors, you can pay very cheap money to real estate agents, doesn't matter, a friend or relative living in the area, use other people to help you determine the condition of the property ahead of time. The trick is, I want your time to be dedicated toward making offers, looking at deals, as opposed to driving around looking and inspecting properties. Yes, you will do that at the end before you actually consummate the contract, but in the beginning you want to use other people's expertise to help you determine the condition of the property. Believe me, if they take good pictures of the property inside and out, you know, and the street, so on and so forth, you're going to be able to look at it and pretty much determine the rehab cost, especially if you combine that with my spreadsheet and the formulas and the percentages that I use in terms of the rehab cost of the property. That would just be awesome, because you will have a clear picture of what that property is going to cost you to fix, and you know when you do the inspection what to expect. And if you see something crazy in the picture that is sent to you, the property is tilting maybe one way or the other, or maybe it's so dilapidated that you look at it, the roof is completely messed up, the swimming pool is completely filled with, you know, like a swamp, looks like a swamp, and you look at the floor plan that is completely messed up and is functionally obsolete, so to speak. Hey, you already know you have to buy that property a hell of a lot less than what you would have originally bought it, or just forget it, move on to the next one. That's why it's very, very important for you to do the physical inspection.
Now let's hear what Sam has to say about closing the purchase escrow.
Just so that we're clear, we have two closings, closing of the purchase escrow and closing of the sale escrow. Luckily for you, because you're doing this program, the 22 program, you don't really have to worry about, or at least for now, worry a whole heck of a lot about selling escrow or the closing of the sale escrow, because you're going to be holding on to these properties, hopefully for a long, long time. But there are things that I'm going to talk to you about later on the sale escrow side, but for now let's stick to the purchase escrow closing. Number one, if you want to buy this property for a purpose of a fix and flip, or you know that you're going to be flipping this property on a hybrid program within the year, you want to make sure that you get a title binder. The binder will allow you to sell this property within the first 12 months and pay very little, if anything, on the title insurance premium fee when you sell the property. So it will save you a ton of money. So that if your cost for the title insurance on the buy side is, let's say, $1,000, you only pay 10% more, let's say $1,100, but on the back end when you sell the property, you will essentially save at least a couple of $1,000. So that's critical. One caveat though, you must use the same title company on the sell side that you did on the purchase side, or else, you know, the title binder is completely nonsense. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do on this one is to be sure that you review your closing documents. The HUD-1 closing statement is a final settlement statement. You're allowed to have that 24 hours prior to the actual closing. So you insist on receiving that from your escrow company, so you would have plenty of time to review it, making sure that it is accurate, that you're being charged properly. Many times the charges are crazy, coming from every which way, and some of which you can essentially negotiate and get a better deal on. That's why you definitely want to review that. And also what you want to review is your promissory note and your deed of trust. The lender, the bank, the hard money lender, your friend, OPM money, whatever, they're going to be instruments, promissory notes and deed of trust. You want to be able to take a look at these things prior to closing of the escrow. Make sure that the interest rate is exactly what it's supposed to be, that the number of points you're paying is exactly what they're supposed to be, that the prepayment penalty, whether or not you have one, that is addressed appropriately. The key issue is when you close the escrow, it's already too late for you to go back and renege and negotiate on anything short of taking them to court, and we know how that's going to work out. So the best thing for you to do is do your work up front. And doing it up front means you pay attention to your closing statement, you pay attention to your promissory note, you pay attention to your deed of trust, you pay attention to all the fees that are listed, and you make sure that everything is exactly in line with what has already been coded to you. That's really, really a critical place. So take time to do that in order for you to do an effective job of closing the purchase escrow.
The rehab process. Take it away, Sam.
Okay, the rehab process, the repair process, either one. Remember what we said, ARV after rehab value, after repair value, that's the R. That R is for the repair or the rehab. Okay, let's talk about that. First of all, you have two different rehabs. One is sale-ready rehab, the other one is rent-ready rehab. If you're buying a property to fix and flip You got to make it sale ready. If you want to make a property sale ready, the rehab is going to cost you a heck of a lot more. If you want to make it rent ready, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot less. One of the reasons I like the 22 program is because virtually every property that we buy, we're going to make it rent ready. Rent ready rehab costs at least half as much as the sale ready rehab. Essentially, we spend not more than $5,000 per unit to change all carpets, paint, nice little appliances in there. I want to create a good living environment for our tenants. Okay, we're not advocating slumlording. That is not ethical, that is not moral, and that is not a good thing for our community. What we want to do is, if you're charging at the top of the market rent, you want to make sure you provide a very nice living environment for your tenants. And the chances are that those tenants are going to stay there when they see such a good environment for them. Okay, so you pay less for that rehab. The rehab is probably one of the most critical elements as well, because a lot of people get kind of, I should say, ripped off by contractors. I don't want to say contractors or all of them are bad. It's not true. I believe that in any, segment of the society, any person as a whole, we have good people, bad people, average people. We also have good contractors, bad contractors, average contractors, and mortgage brokers and real estate investors, doctors, attorneys, doesn't matter. So we're not generalizing at all. But as a whole, the construction business does not have a very good reputation, because unfortunately the contractors, as soon as you pay them the money, they move on to the next project and leave yours behind. So one of the tricks is to make sure you don't give them a whole bunch of money up front. You want to make sure that you give them maybe a percentage of it up front according to an agreement, maybe 10%, 20%, whatever it is. But you want to make sure that whatever money you give them is essentially appropriate to the amount of work that they have done. Not more, not less. Another thing you want to do is to make sure that you do not have them pay for your materials. You pay for the materials. Many times I've seen mechanics liens popping up on properties where the investor relied upon the contractor to purchase the materials, and of course the contractors maybe purchased the materials but never paid for it. And guess who's responsible for it? The homeowner. So if the supplier is not getting paid, they're going to slap a mechanics lien on your property, and that's why I want you to pay for the materials. The only thing that you pay them is for the labor, and in increments, not all in once, not big chunks, always proportionate to what they have done, the amount of work that they have done. Another thing you want to keep in mind, when you want to do the rehab, make sure you see at least 3 contractors. Make sure you interview each one separately. Take a look at what they have done. Check on their references. The old adage about, discarding the highest and the lowest and going, with the one in the middle seems to be very reasonable. But as long as you check their references, as long as you check their work, as long as you make sure that they're licensed. I don't want to deal with unlicensed contractors. You want to make sure they're they're bonded, they're insured, because any liability issue is your liability issue. So therefore, you want to make sure your insurance is in place, but at the same time, you want to use the contractors that are familiar with dealing with investors, not homeowners. Your type of rehab may be completely different than a homeowner wanting to upgrade their property. So those are very, very essential elements that you got to pay attention to. Another thing you could do is, and you must do, is to take a look at the progress on regular basis, on a daily basis. I have a friend who does a lot of rehabs for fix and flip purposes, and every property that he buys, he essentially fixes one room, and then he sets up his office right there with his bed, right there with the phone line, the entire equipment, whatever he needs to have, locks up the doors, of course, when he leaves, but that room is his office. He's sleeping there. He wants to make sure that in the morning the contractors are there when they're supposed to. And I've seen his work progresses very quickly. So do what you can to keep an eye on the crew, because if your eyes goes off of them, God knows what's going to happen, and a process that should have taken only about a month would probably take you about 3 months. And that's money right out of your pocket.
And now, the sales process.
All right, now we're talking about the sales process. Now, the sales process is essentially only applicable when you buy a property for a fix and flip purpose, or if you're doing the hybrid program and you know that a 2 to 4 units you just acquire is not going to be your property within a year. So you need to know the sales process, how you actually go about selling your property effectively. The first thing that I want to share with you is that the moment you buy that property, the moment you begin your rehab process, you must have a strategy for selling that property. And you probably put up a sign as a for sale by owner. It has a lot of advantages. Prospective buyers can come in, and if they are interested in what you're doing and they want to buy the property, you allow them to choose the colors of their choice and so on and so forth. So it would be like a custom home for them. So that has an advantage. And you also begin to build your buyers list for future. So it definitely has advantages. But if you're not able to sell the property on a FSBO or a for sale by owner, then you want to make sure that you hire a real estate agent who is specialized in that particular locality and location that your property is. Reason being is you do not want to use someone, let's say in the Southern California, if you've already rehabbed the property 2 to 4 units and you want to sell it on a hybrid program, and let's say it's located in the Palmdale area, you do not want to hire a real estate agent in the San Fernando Valley to sell that property for you. They don't know what the heck's going on locally. The reality is, yeah, we're all real estate agents in California, we're licensed, we have access to the MLS, but the local know-how is critical in selling your property effectively and quickly. As you also want to check their marketing campaign. The agent needs to be very informed and acclimated with a powerful campaign selling your property, not just by traditional means such as the MLS or advertisings in the paper and so on and so forth, but also with the social media, with the email campaigns and so on and so forth. So you want to check out their marketing campaign and their reputation for sure. Another thing that is critically important in selling your property is staging your property. Staging your property is important because people have difficulty visualizing the end result of any sort of decoration or what it's going to look like after everything is in, kind of furniture is in. What you want to do is you want to enhance that ability. You want them to be able to actually see it. So believe me, if you have to spend a couple of $1,000s, on staging a property, it's absolutely worth it. Get the best stagers out there that you can find. Have them stage the property for you, put good stuff in there, make it look like it is occupied, make sure the lights are on, make sure you ask your neighbor to park their car in your driveway if the house is vacant, make sure you put an alarm system in your house if you have to. It's definitely worth it because vacant properties tend to get vandalized. And if if your property is vacant, obviously you're going to be wide open to all these kinds of stuff. Leave the lights on, put them under some sort of an automatic timer or whatever, but make it look like it's occupied. And a lot of times your neighbors are going to do wonders for you. Just ask, or get a dog, get a German Shepherd. Whatever you do, make sure your property is not vandalized. And the staging, going back to staging, it is critically important because, as I said, when they walk in and they see everything is in there, they just typically fall in love. Have you noticed how, when big developers in subdivisions, when they want to sell properties, they essentially set up a few models and they beautifully decorate them? That's when people fall for these properties. Emotionality comes with seeing everything the way that it's going to be at the end. And like I said, when people have difficulty visualizing the end, you enhance that by giving them that opportunity. And believe me, a good stager doesn't cost a lot of money, but they're very, very much valuable in your process. Also, don't waste your time trying to give your listing to a friend or a relative because you feel like you owe them something. If they are an expert in the area, if they know what the heck they're doing, that should be the merit based upon which you determine whether or not you want to deal with them. Not because they're a relative, because that property that you want to sell, every day that it sits on the market, money is going out of your pocket. You're paying for that property with high interest rates. And the key for you is quick turnover. So the quicker you sell your property, the better off you are. And the way to sell your property quickly is to hire the best real estate agent out there. Oh, and one more thing regarding your selling your property, the sales process. There's a dilemma that investors have. What should I list my property at? Should I go too high, leave room for negotiation? Should I go too low and maybe I attract a lot of offers? You know, the jury is still out on that. Everybody's got their preferences. I happen to be of the opinion that if you list your property slightly below your competition, you give yourself an incredible chance, a much better chance of selling your property, because in order for your property to sell, you got to have eyeballs, you got to have property, people look at your property. When you list your property way over the market, way over everybody else, you're essentially cutting yourself out of the equation. A lot of people will not even look at your property, and that will minimize your chance of selling the property. So to me, list it lower than anybody else, and then allow them to come in. A whole bunch of people come and take a look at your property, and you still have an opportunity to get multiple offers and then sell to the best and the highest that you choose, as opposed to having it high and then having the right buyer coming in and give you what you want.
Here's an important subject: the leasing process.
Okay, the rent or lease process. This particular section is more applicable to our 22 program because we're not fixing and flipping properties, hopefully not too many times. Yes, you will be selling some properties on the hybrid program. Maybe occasionally you want to do a fix and flip just to kind of like keep your edges sharp and so on and so forth. But as a whole, what you want to do is fix them, rent them or lease them and keep them. Okay, that's the strategy. Now, on a lease, rent or lease process, remember we talked about the rehabbing of these properties. We talked about it before. They should not cost you a lot of money. At the most, maybe $5,000 per unit. Many times, probably $2,000 or $3,000 per door, per unit will be the cost of your rehab. And we talked about what you essentially rehab. You know, a paint, a carpet, you know, nice little appliances over there, and making sure the property looks cute and nice. You don't have to do an complete upgrade of the property, by no means. You just want to find good tenants for yourself. Just keep in mind that your rental income depends on two different types of tenancy. One would be the regular tenant paying you the market rent, and the other one would be the Section 8 tenant paying 10 to 20% more than the market rent. Again, since the government is subsidizing, of course these rents are going to be higher. My suggestion is when you're rehabbing your property, make sure that you know what the requirements are for the Section 8 so that you rehab it conforming to those requirements and conditions. So when the rehab is done and you find a Section 8 tenant, your property will be approved very quickly and you're going to be able to get yourself 10 to 20% more on your rental income, which is sweet. The other thing that you want to be looking at is when you want to rent your properties, be sure that you're not fooled with the wads of cash somebody offering you. I've seen more often than not people picking the wrong tenant because they were enticed by a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 in cash and completely ignored the credit score, completely ignored the previous references or bad references for the tenant, and say, oh yeah, this one is going to be working out okay. The guy's a sweet guy, he's got a sweet family, and he's giving me $5,000 in cash. Don't be fooled by that, okay? Your job as a good landlord is to make sure that you're a member of the landlord association, local landlord associations, and then you will be able to pull credit for every one of your tenants. Believe it or not, I'm an advocate and a proponent of the fact that if your FICO score is high, the higher your FICO score, the more responsible you are with your financial obligations. It's been put together using an incredibly complex algorithm. I'm talking about the FICO scores, and believe me, they have taken a lot of things into consideration that would indicate whether or not somebody is financially responsible. So I would like to rent my properties to tenants that at least have a 650 FICO score, okay? And I'm not fooled by a whole bunch of cash. I want to find the best ones. I want to make sure also that I check their previous landlords and find out that what they've done. One of the things that I want to give you as maybe a new landlord, maybe you should know that, clearly you want to check their previous landlords, but not just the one prior to yours landlord, but you want to go before that one. The reason being is if they're moving from one location to your location and that landlord wants to get rid of them, they're going to give him the sweetest reference to you just to get rid of that tenant. That's not the landlord you want to be talking to. You want to talk to the one right before that, because that landlord already knows what these people are like, and he doesn't have to worry about getting rid of them because he's already gotten rid of them. Okay, so it's critical for you to know what type of tenant you're getting for your properties, because remember, one of the worst things that can happen to you, and also costly things that can happen to you, is a turnover of your tenants. Most of my tenants are sitting in their properties for years. I've got tenants that have been in there for 3 to 5 years. That's where you're gonna make a lot of money, have very little headache. That's when you're essentially going to be enjoying your life as a good landlord, as a solid, successful landlord. The other part of it is, if you are not able to manage your properties properly, you need to get a good management company to help you out. Management companies charge anywhere between 7 to 10%, depending upon where you are. But believe me, the one that charges the most is not necessarily the best, and the one that charges the least is not necessarily the worst. What you want to do is find a good one out there with a lot of references, and also you want to make sure that you're essentially staying engaged with the process of management, checking on your property, making sure you look at all their invoices from the management company, making sure the costs and the charges are essentially in line. But the beauty of the 22 program, especially in today's market, is because you have tremendous positive cash flow, because of the fact that you're buying these properties so much below the market. Not only that, because the property values have dropped so much, because you have such a great cash flow, it doesn't really matter if you pay 5, 6, 7, or 10% to a property management company to take care of your property so you don't have tenant headaches, so to speak. That's why it is so imperative, again and again I emphasize that, to get into this market on the 22 program, start buying rental properties, because that's one of the beauty of this market that will afford you to hire the best management company and still be able to get a great return on your investment and experience, have a very successful experience with landlording, because I know a lot of people don't, but hey, there are ways to do that. And one of the ways is to take care of your tenants. Get the best tenants out there. If you do that, a lot of your problems are solved.
Finally, let's hear Sam explain the closing of the sale escrow.
Okay, closing of your sale escrow. Like we talked about before, you may not have a whole bunch of these happening to you, not anytime soon. But in fact, if you are planning to sell any of your properties, perhaps even if you want to refinance them, kind of the same kind of process, because you're going to be looking at a lot of different documents. But you really, when you want to sell your property and the sale process, just to be sure that you're using the same title company that you used when you bought the property. Remember, we talked about the binder. That binder is going to save you a ton of money, so you want to make sure. I've made that mistake. I forgot who I used when I bought the property, so I paid 10% extra in the beginning and paid full price at the end. So use the same title company. Use our mastermind team. Part of the program that we've got with you in here is going to allow you to use our mastermind group of people. We've got escrow officers, escrow companies, title officers, appraisers, credit repair companies. We have got contractors. We've got attorneys. We've got so many people that come together as a team to help you achieve your goal and achieve your successful closing of this escrow. Because remember, when you close the escrow is when you actually make the money. But as we talked about before, hopefully your profit was already made when you bought it. But the selling of the escrow is also critically important. Again, you look at your final, not final settlement statement, estimated settlement statement, estimated HUD-1, as we call it in the business. Look at that prior to closing of the escrow. Make sure, again, the charges that are being reflected there are essentially the charges that you have been quoted. Make sure that the commission to the agents are exactly what they're supposed to be. And speaking of the commission, anytime you want to sell a property, again, our mastermind of real estate agents are going to be able to give you a discount when you sell or list your property for sale. A typical commission right now is about 5%. Many times our agents in our team can work with you and give you as little as 3 to 3.5%. Okay, why? Because they're dealing in volume. And when you deal in volume and you got an assembly line of different people helping you sell a property, that real estate agent is able to pass that on to you, and I want you to be able to utilize that. The key issue is you make more money when you sell your property if you are able to save money. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny earned, especially here in the real estate business, and particularly in big cities such as LA. Because when you look at your closing statement, every line in there is filled with some amount, and you need to go and renegotiate or negotiate on some of those items. For example, call the title company, try and get a little break. Call the escrow company, trying to get a little break over there. If you see a whole bunch of garbage fees from your lender, anytime that you use a lender or anybody who's delivering a service to you, trying to get a little discount. The key issue is ask and thou shalt receive. You've heard that adage, okay? If you don't ask, nobody's going to give it to you. Sometimes even you ask, you don't get anything. But it's better to ask for a discount, especially if your profit margin is tight. And by saving a little every day, every which way, you're going to be able to maximize your profit on the sale of your property. But again, I hope you do not want to sell a whole bunch of these properties. The key issue, the success of this program, the power of the 22 program is in buying and holding. And that's what I hope you do. All right, I hope you liked what you saw. I hope you liked what I shared with you. I know it was kind of quick, but what I really love about this program, I was just talking to so many people. I've done a lot of research. How do people gather information and are able to assimilate information? Is the best way to do that is to give them a little information at a time. That's why we have compartmentalized this program into 5-minute sections. That's why I believe giving you a little information at a time, breaking them down into all these little segments and sections will enable you not only to get the best information that we're able to give you, but you'll be able to assimilate and grasp that information so you can apply the information. Remember, application only comes after you assimilate the information. Otherwise, you're essentially emulating somebody else, and no one can really emulate anybody else. It has to become your own information. So I'm really proud of what we put together, and I hope that you have learned a lot in this program. Remember, your education doesn't end here, it's just the beginning. This program, the 22 program, is a fundamental and a strong concept, an idea that has been already implemented. We've already done it. I've got several students that have done that. I've bought many of these properties myself. It is based on an incredible amount of research and information on so many properties that we have bought, sold, or still have, or on the market on the hybrid system for sale. So you're not just getting it from some sort of like an airy-fairy kind of a thing created out of the thin air kind of thing. It's based on actual data, actual properties, and actual market. So that's why I believe it will work for you. It's the gateway to your future financial independence. If you let this period of time go by without you acting and coming into this thing, you are going to lose it altogether. For many of us, it will not be available. the next cycle that the real estate prices are going to dive and go to the bottom. For many of us, we will not witness that. We will not see that. So what I would like you to do is to study it well, go over your manual many times. The manual is extensive. Many of the stuff that I have not been able to cover on the videos because I wanted to make them and keep them short are available for you on the manual. Many links to incredible resources, you know, from your analysis, property analysis resources, to credit repair, to various other websites that are going to help you along with on your path to financial freedom. So you will have, by the time you will have finished this particular program, the information that you will have gathered is going to be invaluable for you. You will know what to do no matter where you are in the country, no matter where you are in the United States of America, or even if you're an immigrant coming from China, coming from the Middle East, from South America. I myself am an immigrant. I wish I had this information available to me when I came. But for any of you guys anywhere planning to come to America or live in America but want to apply this information, remember, this information is not local. It's really global. I mean global in terms of the United States of America globally. This information can be applied anywhere in this country. And that's the beauty of it. In fact, this program, the 22 program, probably will work better in areas outside of Los Angeles because your rental income is going to be greater than what you paid the property, what you paid for the property. In other words, proportionately, you are going to be experiencing an incredibly more attractive return on your investment. So don't be thinking, since I'm in Southern California and since I've devised this plan and I've bought my properties over here, that it's only applicable here. Believe me, it can be done anywhere. In fact, it's already being done in Las Vegas and Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, so I would like to encourage you, if you've already enrolled in this program, read it, make sure it's your own, apply it. Then combine it with our basic mentoring program. If you combine this program, the 22 program, with the basic mentoring program, you're going to get the best of both worlds because we are going to teach you many other things outside of this program and many other benefits that you will get on your way to success, financial freedom. Also remember, education is not a one-time or a two-time thing. As I said before, it's like from cradle to grave. You need to learn all the time. So I invite you to come to our meetings, our monthly meetings at the Beverly Hills Country Club. You know, fill in the gaps, you know, that have not been covered perhaps in this program. And then you learn at our meetings. Send us emails, contact me, check our blogs, go into my website. You know, incredibly user-friendly, navigate through it. So much information, knowledge, inspiration, motivation for you. You can just essentially get all that you want from one website in order to succeed in real estate. The interviews with gurus, with the shakers and the doers out there that I'm going to be having and adding into our website is going to give you all that you want and more in order to help you achieve your ultimate goal of financial independence. Because, my friend, the key is, as we started in the beginning of the program, is not only to be financially free and have an incredible cash flow, but also be happy. And the way that I've structured this entire package and the way that we approach your education is not just giving you the knowledge that is specific to real estate, but providing you with the necessary inspiration, with the necessary motivation to go out there, roll up your sleeves, get in the trenches, get it done, and enjoy the process. And when you get to the top, not only you are at the top, but you've got a whole bunch of your friends at the top. And it's a lot more fun when you help others to get to the top with you. And that's where I want to see you. So I want to see you at the top. I want to make sure you're never again have to worry about money. That you are going to be enjoying your family, that you're going to be enjoying your life as a whole, while all the rental checks are coming to you every month. And the beauty of it is, your checks are coming in the beginning of the month, not the end of the month. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to collect at the end. No, you're getting it. You're getting your money, then you go into the month. That's sweet. I don't know what anything else that can do that for you. So our goal is your success, your happiness. Please join us in our monthly meetings, join our membership programs. Contact us if you have any questions. We're here to help you achieve your goals, because I firmly believe that if you achieve your goals and if I can help you get to where you want, I can get to where I want. Thank you.